My name is Eric Moutsos. I'm a former Salt Lake City police officer. I was with Salt Lake City Police for around 7 years. I served on the bicycle unit. I served in regular patrol. I served as a motorcycle officer. Um, when I initially saw, I mean, everybody is seeing what's going on, obviously, and everybody's concerned. When I saw the news report that Salt Lake City put out a snitch on your neighbor hotline, it really, really concerned me. Um, and so I wanted to do and the reason why it concerned me is because these types of orders, in my opinion, what it's doing is it's scaring people into their house when they shouldn't be afraid. Because our whole point is that if you can do the social distancing um, in a grocery store 6 inches away from each other passing, why can't we be doing this across America? And so we're gonna do a rally revival for businesses in Salt Lake City on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. I believe that's the 19th, or sorry, April 18th, Saturday at 5 p.m. So we're asking everybody to come down to Salt Lake City around 4:30. We're going to make an announcement either from this page or our personal pages where exactly it's going to be. So just stand by on that. But I have a special. I have something special. I wanted to. Me and Ammon Bundy have been friends now for a couple years. My family had the privilege to go up and visit with his family in Emmett, and what a beautiful place it was. But I sat and listened because I remember when I first heard Ammon Bundy's story. What year exactly did that start? Was that like '07?
2014 is actually when it became national, I guess. But my dad's been kind of fighting. Well, he's been fighting that battle since the early '90s. So, but in 2014 is when.
Didn't something happen around like 2005? Something happened early 2000s that I'm thinking of. Maybe that was on the news. Maybe not.
Yeah, my absolute, especially Utah local, um, they had been threatening to basically remove my father's father from the ranch for I don't know almost 2 decades, and from time to time it would surface into the news, at least in the West.
That's right.
You probably heard.
So then, yeah, that's right. And then when I heard Ammon's story about up in Oregon, I was so confused because I'm like, who are these guys? Like, what? That was the first. And so I didn't pay much attention to it. Um, but as I started to learn more and I started to see him in court and I started to read more, I wanted to know. I wanted to know more about it. So I contacted him and we went up to meet with his family and I listened to his story. In full disclosure, there's a few things that I would have done differently. There's a few things that Ammon has done and said that I disagree with. However, with all of that said, I love this man. Like, I love this family, and everybody has a conscience, and everybody needs to act according to their conscience. And it sometimes may be right, and it sometimes may be wrong. The reason why I stand with Ammon, he was just. Can you tell us about your event that you just had in Idaho, real quick?
So we have been meeting together as a group of people, and it's been getting larger and larger in Idaho every Thursday. And then we had a church group that asked us if we would assist them in finding a venue to hold Easter services, and we did do that. We actually found it was actually held in a building that I own, and we had several hundred people come and basically worshipped and had an Easter service, and the sermon was amazing. It was a Pentecostal preacher, and he was a lot different than I'm used to. But man, what a wonderful, true message, and just anyway, and so it was really great to be able to meet together, to be able to have that time together and to worship together. And anyway, it was That's what we did just last Sunday.
Yeah, I watched some of it, and it was I liked the preacher because he made a joke about like preacher and a Mormon and so.
Yeah, there was a Jewish man that was, helping and participating, and then he was a Pentecostal preacher, and then a Mormon, and he said it sounds like the beginning of a bad bar joke.
That's awesome. You
But
know,
that's
and
but we have a unity. All of us have a unity, and and that is liberty. All of us want to be free.
that's exactly right. And so there's some confusion that I'm seeing happening, and maybe you can help shed some light on this thought. But people say, well, your church is closing down churches and temples, so you wanting to go out and do a rally of some type, isn't that going against your church doctrine? And my thought is this: look, is it smart to close a temple where the majority of the workers are 60 plus in age? Yeah, I do. I think that's a smart thing to do. But just because we do that type of thing and um, we're trying to be safe, it doesn't mean, in my opinion, that God wants to kill the economy. And so that's the difference. It's two separate issues. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it would be hard for me to guess why the church does certain things, and because I'm not privy to the information that they are privy to, and I mean, they are a church that's throughout the entire world, um, and there's different reasons. What one that may very well be a reason in which they did this is they did it at the very beginning before any of these orders came out. There was no order that was out when they decided to not hold the weekly church services and close the temples down. Now, did they do this so that it was their choice? Did they do this so it was their choice rather than waiting and being, forced, put in that position? I don't know, but it was their choice. They chose to do it from the information that they had and the decisions that they made because of their understanding. And I'm not going to be critical of that. It's just like, on the same hand, I'm not going to be critical if someone decides to stand 6 feet away from somebody and wear a mask. It is their right to do it, and I respect that. And I'm not going to go up and hug them and give them a kiss.
And it's their right to stay quarantined. If they want to be in their house, stay quarantined. Now, where the rights are blurred, and this is what we're going to talk about, um, where the rights are blurred and where the government is confused. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So again, we could go on that same analogy. If I decide to shake someone's hand and another person decides that they want to shake my hand back, that is my right and that other person's right. And those rights belong to only me and that other person. And if we choose and consent to shake hands with each other, we have that right. Now, what it is not someone else's rights. And it doesn't matter if it's in government, that person works in government or not. It is not someone else's right to try to force us to not shake hands. That is incorrect. And so what we have here right now is a fundamental conflict with whose rights they are, who they belong to. And it is important that we send the message because obviously the government is confused on this. They're very confused. They think somehow that this right to travel, the right to trade, the right to worship, the right to go out of our homes and to enjoy the God's earth, they somehow are confused and think that that right belongs to them. And so it's very important that we express to them whose rights they are, because they don't belong to them. They belong to each individual person. They don't even belong to the people, if you want to say. They belong to each person. Okay, and natural law, if you will, if you'll bear with me, it actually requires, and what I mean by natural law, it's just the way it is. For example, water boils at 212 degrees, right? That is the way it is. Now you might change that a little bit with, or with elevation, but it's 212 degrees, it boils. And so you might put salt in it and change a little bit, but it's 212 degrees, right? And that's a natural law. Now, a natural law to maintain rights, it requires an individual to claim them, to use them, and then to defend them. And so it's important when rights are being threatened that we say, hey, look, these belong to us. They don't belong to you. They belong to me. They do not belong to you. And then it's also equally as important to exercise them, to use them. And what that does is that reaffirms that that right belongs to you. And now you're beneficially using them. And that's what we're asking people to do this Saturday, the 18th, to come to Salt Lake and to come and let those who are confused understand that these rights belong to us. We're going to claim them, and to exercise them so they understand and know they belong to us.
That's right. And we're going to be saving businesses as well. So when you come down Saturday, the 18th, purchase some food from a local establishment and we are going to eat it together. We're going to, if you're a family unit, stay as a family unit because you've already been exposed. If you see somebody that wants their space, give them their space. Um, and we're not going to force it one way or the other. The reason why we're not going to force it one way or the other is because nobody can. Um, as a former police officer myself for Salt Lake City, I'm not a scholar, but I know the law and I know right from wrong. And I believe most people in the United States right now, in their heart of hearts, they know that this is wrong. This doesn't feel right. Well, the reason why it doesn't feel right is because it is not right. And so the Constitution, the First Amendment is the right to assemble. It's the right to assemble, especially peacefully. And as hard as it may be to think about this for a lot of people right now, there's not a little footnote that says, except for a virus. And it's in, and I believe we can be safe and thoughtful to reopen this economy like now, but I believe it's we the people that have to do it. We cannot sit and wait for the monkey see monkey do politicians to see, okay, what should I do, because they're so worried about their not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them are just so worried about their reputation in their office that they're not acting. And as they're not acting, we are dying as a country right now. The United States of America, 50% of the lifeblood comes from small business, and right now we're at a 13%, as of yesterday, a 13% unemployment, which is the greatest since the Great Depression. Nobody's talking about about the full aspects of health. We're talking about a teeny tiny little bit of physical health that this virus, it's a real virus, can cause on a very small percentage of people that may die. We're not talking about um, we're not talking about complete physical health, mental health, spiritual health, economic health. The list goes on and on. We're not talking about deaths of despair. Did you know every 1% of unemployment, these are studies from 30 to 40 years, every 1% of unemployment equates to at minimum 35,000 deaths between depression, alcohol, cirrhosis of the liver, heart attacks. The list goes on. And so when you get up to a 20% unemployment, some economists are saying we're going to be at a 30% unemployment. We are going to have 1 million Americans dead from this, from the response of what we're doing. And it's unacceptable. And so Ammon Bundy is going to join me, and he's going to stand with me downtown Salt Lake City. I ask everybody to share this video. I ask everybody to come downtown Salt Lake City around 4:30, pick up some food, and our voice is going to be heard. Ammon, what are your thoughts?
So I would like to ask the question to anybody who's watching this. what is the greater risk? Is the greater risk the virus, or is the greater risk losing our everyday freedoms, literally? And what is the greater threat? If you look at the 21st century, have has allowing government agents to overstep our and trample upon rights been uh, much more, I guess, contributing to death uh, than than any virus. Do the math. If you go in the 21st century alone, there was over 250 million non-combatant lives lost by their own government, and it started, whether it was in good intention or not, it started by allowing government agents to begin to overstep their bounds. And so the most prudent, the most safe thing, the most peaceful thing to do right now is to come out of your homes and to come and start to exercise those rights. And the business owners, to come out, open your businesses. Yeah, you might take a small uh, personal risk at the beginning. But the most prudent thing to do is that, because you cannot set a precedent and you cannot allow somebody else to claim what belongs to you, because that always ends terribly. And so that would be my message. Come out and join us on Saturday. Exercise those rights.
Ammon, thank you so much. Thankful to have you as a friend, and I believe that we have got to stand up as American citizens immediately and let our voice be heard. I'm still going to post memes, but I'm tired of memes. Like memes only go so far, and Facebook posts only go so far. Like we have to show, especially in Salt Lake City, where they're having people snitch on their neighbors. This is the United States of America. Um, I just can't believe it. So, thank you, everybody. Please share this video. Please go to the Utah Business Revival page. Join the page. Share it with your friends. Meet us downtown at 4:30. We're going to tell you exactly where we're going to be on a Facebook post um, at around 4:30, and we hope to see you there.